దూర విద్యా విధానంలో డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ ఓపెన్ యూనివర్సిటీ దేశంలోనే మొట్టమొదటి సార్వత్రిక విశ్వవిద్యాలయం. దాదాపు 2.5 దశాబ్దాలుగా దూర విద్యా విధానం ద్వారా కంప్యూటర్ కోర్సును అనుసంధానం చేస్తూ బీఏ, బీకామ్, బీఎస్సీ డిగ్రీ కోర్సులను అందిస్తోంది. పోస్ట్ గ్రాడ్యుయేషన్ స్థాయి, డిగ్రీ, డిప్లొమా స్థాయి కోర్సులను ఔత్సాహికులైన విద్యార్థులకు అందిస్తోంది. డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ సార్వత్రిక విశ్వవిద్యాలయం స్థానికంగా స్వయం బోధనా పద్ధతిలో ముద్రణ రూపంలో రూపొందించిన కోర్స్ మెటీరియల్ అందిస్తోంది. కోర్స్ మెటీరియల్ అధ్యయనానికి సహకరించే విధంగా రేడియో, టెలివిజన్ పాఠ్యాంశాల ఆధారంగా కార్యక్రమాలు ప్రసారం చేస్తోంది. అధ్యయన కేంద్రాల ద్వారా ఏర్పాటు చేసే సలహా సంసర్గ తరగతులు, సైన్స్ ప్రాక్టికల్ సౌకర్యాలు విద్యార్థులకు స్వయం అధ్యయనానికి ఒక చక్కటి అవకాశం. ఇవి విద్యార్థి సమీపంలో ఉండే అధ్యయన కేంద్రం నుంచే పొందొచ్చు.
Hello and welcome to this live discussion on the topic determinants of consumer behavior. This topic is for the benefit of the students of MBA first year program of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University. Human behavior is very complex. How a person understands a situation is not because of the situation itself, but because of the operation of his senses. How he perceives a thing depends upon the operation of his senses. When it comes to consumer behavior, a marketer would be successful if he understands how a consumer understands a product, how he behaves in a given situation. And if a marketer has to be successful, then he has to know how a consumer will behave. In order to understand what is consumer behavior, what are the factors that influence the consumer to buy, how does he make this buying decision, what are the models of consumer behavior, we have with us in our studios today two eminent personalities. Professor K.V. Achalapathy, retired professor of commerce, Osmania University, and we have Dr. A. Patrick, assistant professor, Department of Commerce, Osmania University, and I am your host for the day, Rabindranath Solomon from the Department of Commerce, Ambedkar Open University. Dear students, this is an interactive session. We would like to hear more from you so that we will give you more inputs from our end. So, we would like to ask you to call us on the numbers flashing on your screen. I will read out the numbers for you: 040 2703 1431, 2703 1432 and 2703 1433. Kindly call us for any query on the topic of determinants of consumer behavior. A specific request is, keep your questions limited to the topic being discussed so that it may serve your interest and the larger interest of the audiences who are tuned in to our program. We will begin the discussion by asking Professor Achalapathy Garu, what is consumer behavior?
A consumer behavior is a study of behavior of human being in relation to the marketing. We look from the marketing angle. So, how, when, why, where a consumer buys, how does he take a decision to buy the product, what influences him to take the buying decision. This will be studied. So, it is a comprehensive interdisciplinary study of sociology, psychology, cultural, anthropology, and the both interpersonal and intrapersonal factors. So, it speaks about the how a consumer manifests himself in taking a consumer decision to buy a product.
Okay. So, that was the introduction with regard to consumer behavior. So, dear students, you might have now got a feel of what we are going to discuss over the next 1 hour. So, we are going to discuss consumer behavior and the determinants of consumer behavior, which is a multidisciplinary topic. And Professor Dr. Patrick, we have heard about the 7 O's of consumer behavior. Now, can you please throw some light on the 7 O's of consumer behavior, sir?
Thank you. Now, as sir has just reiterated, saying that it's something which is very important to understand about the behavioral aspects of a consumer. Now, sir has rightly said it is an interdisciplinary approach wherein the knowledge comes from areas like anthropology, political science, sociology, psychology, and from economics as well there. Now, consumer behavior is said to be the core or the heart or the subject of marketing there. And there are different approaches as to how you understand the subject from a consumer's point of view. And researchers have gone about with summarizing the way sir has said about the what, why and other things there. There are certain things that we need to get ourselves familiar with to understand, because these concepts begin with the letter O. We call it the 7 O's model, as to who goes about with constituting the market. So we talk them as occupants. There could be individual consumers, organizational consumers. The reasons as to why they go about with buying products and services, we call it the objectives. What do they buy? We talk about the objects there. When do they buy? The occasion part of it. Where do they buy? Outlets. And who is involved in the decision making of buying? That is to do with the organization. And how do they go about with buying? That is to do with the operation part of it. Do they buy it through cash? Do they buy it online? Do they buy it offline? Now, trying to understand this whole gamut of things is pretty easy to go about it summarizing and telling that it constitutes, or the ingredients of consumer behavior is seen from a perspective of a 7 O's model.
Okay. So, that was a very beautiful explanation given by Dr. Patrick with regard to the 7 O's of consumer behavior. And Professor Achalapati, what is the importance of studying consumer behavior?
Yes, human consumer behavior need to be studied by every marketing student, because a marketer can target his products to the consumer only when he understands the consumer.
Yeah.
It's because the most important aspect of the marketing is the buying. If the consumer does not buy, then nothing can be made marketing by the marketer. He cannot make profits, he cannot he doesn't know how much he should charge pricing, or he doesn't know how the consumer changes in its tastes, or how do they change. Everything is a big black box. We say in psychology terminology, consumer's mind is like a black box. What is inside we do not know. If we can bring out if we can probe into the black box, and then if we can know what is if you can bring out the white cat from the black box, then we can really do wonders from the marketing angle. Hence, no marketing mix strategy or no product price promotion strategies can be made unless you understand the consumer.
Okay.
So, consumer study is the heart of marketing.
Yeah. So, dear students, just as a business cannot survive in a vacuum, a business cannot survive unless there is a consumer. What is produced has to be marketed, and if you have to market it, you have to know what the consumer knows about your product, what the consumer assumes about your product, and how he behaves in terms of purchasing of your product, because if your product is not purchased, then there is no point producing the product. So, the consumer is in the crux of the entire marketing mix. So, that is the relative importance of consumer behavioral studies. Now, we will ask Dr. Patrick. Now, the topic for today's discussion is the determinants of consumer behavior. So, sir, please tell us what are the determinants of consumer behavior?
Now, we call it the determinants or the factors which influence consumer behavior. We see that there are forces or reasons which are there within the individual and reasons which are outside the individual, which are responsible, or the ones which influence the entire set of behavior that is involved in making a decision whether to buy a product or not to buy a product. So, when we talk about the reasons there, we go about with calling it as the intrapersonal, that is within the individual, and things which are related with the other factors, we call it as the interpersonal, and broadly we classify it into the socio-cultural factors, sociological factors, personal factors, and the psychological factors. So, what we'll be doing is we'll try discussing in detail what these 4 approaches or the 4 determinants which constitutes consumer behavior all about.
Okay. So, consumer behavior, dear students, is a mix of the factors that determine the consumer behavior are both internal and external factors. Internal factors are factors within an individual, they are called intrapersonal, and interpersonal factors are the factors that is between individuals or beyond the individuals, which are termed as the external factors of consumer behavior. Professor Achalapati, I also understand that culture also will have a role to play in how a consumer behaves, because his behavior has got a direct relation to his culture. So, sir, could you please tell us what are the socio-cultural factors that determine the consumer behavior?
Yeah, basically, culture plays a significant role in influencing the buying decisions. Let us say your eating habits.
Yeah.
McDonald's markets its products. When it markets in India, the components that are there in the McDonald's sandwich or McDonald's burger are totally different from what are the components in America.
Yes.
Because the culture does not permit you to accept certain things.
Yes.
So, a marketer need to understand the culture from which the consumer comes from. Let us say, actually the culture, the word itself, we say a culture is nothing but a shared values of the society that are inherited from the parents, then they are nursed by the teachers, they are developed by the neighbors, and they are accepted by the society. At 4 stages we have cultural acceptance. So, if we just take an example, if a lady smokes in a small village, people will not cherish it, they condemn it in India. If a lady smokes in a mafsal like a Mahbub Nagar district, people will look what is going wrong. If she smokes in Hyderabad, they will see she is odd man out. If she smokes in Bombay, okay, they will say fine. If you do not smoke in London, that itself is a big surprise. So, this is a cultural difference that you find in different places. So, when you market products, marketing has to be done keeping the culture into account, even naming also. Similarly, there is a subculture, there is a local culture. So, you need to localize the global products.
Okay.
Even a simple example I can give you, multinational company like Unilever Limited names a product of salt as Annapurna in India. Even though it is nobody thinks that it is a multinational company, because the word Annapurna is associated with the cultural value of India. So, they do not say when Indian company names a salt as a Captain Cook, whereas an American company keeps the name as Annapurna. The name itself is called glocalization. Glocalization of the that is global product. When you localize it, we call it as glocalization. Then you have a cultural factor and social factors that you find, and then you have economic factors, you have personal factors, you have psychological factors. These are the things which are to be taken care of.
So, beautifully explained by Professor Achalapati Garu. Cultural factors are very, very important for a marketer to take into consideration when he is naming the product, when he is introducing the product into the market, and when he is also in the stage of promoting the product. Culture is something which he has to keep in his mind. So, that was with regard to the cultural factors. Now, we will ask Dr. Patrick, along with cultural factors, there are also certain social factors that have a great bearing on consumer behavior. So, please tell us about these social factors.
Just now sir is finished with culture, subculture, and the social class that you belong to also matters a lot. Now, when it comes to the social factors, we talk about the first thing in it to be the reference groups. Right from the cradle to the grave, or from birth to death, at some point or the other we belong to some group or the other, and these groups have an influence or a bearing on how we go about with making our choices and how we involve in deciding whether to buy or not. Now, the reference groups go about with having an influence directly or indirectly on the buying behavior of the consumers. Now, when you take membership in a group there, that influences you directly to involve in decision making. And we could be a part of a neighborhood, we could have co-workers, you could belong to some office, They could be peers, they could be subordinates, they could be superiors. Any way or the other, they would be influencing. This is coming in a way which is indirect. Another thing is, there are times that there are people, they may not belong to a particular group, but they want to go about with aspiring to go about with getting their characteristics, and this is called as an aspirational group. Even that influences their buying behavior. And in the reference group, there's another thing which is to do with the component of family. And it is believed that 80 to 90% of one's personality is determined by your birth and to which family you come from, your upbringing. So that surely has a bearing on how we go about with making a choices. And it was Shakespeare who rightly said that the entire world is a stage and we have come to play various roles around. And here the roles and statuses that we go about with playing in our day-to-day activities also have a bearing on the buying behavior of the consumer. Now, when it comes to the status, there is something to do with people being status conscious, in the sense that there are certain products which are branded, expensive, and marketers are able to tap into these people who are status conscious and sell. Let me give an example. Like, I heard it in a very hilarious way. Like when it comes to a car brand called Lamborghini, somebody asked, why don't you get advertisements of this brand on the television? And the sales guy of that car said that, if we start going about with putting advertisements of this brand on the television, now this brand of car is bought by people who don't even have time to watch the advertisements on the television there. So there is a separate class of people who would really think about brands like Audi, BMW and other things that are there. So this is where I'm talking about people being conscious about their status, and we play different roles in our day-to-day activities, and every role goes about with influencing us as to how we make our choices and how we buy goods and services.
So those are the social factors. Every individual, as sir was pointing out, belongs to a social class. He aspires to be a part of a social group. Say for example, there is a college going student who wants to buy a watch, and she goes and asks her parents that she wants to buy a watch. The first question which I assume the parents would ask is, are your friends also wearing watches? Now when she says that everybody in my group has a watch, then the parents also would think twice and maybe buy a watch for her. Now this is the influence of the social class to which she belongs, which has made a decision towards buying the product. So that is the effect of the social group on the purchasing behavior of an individual. So very beautifully explained by Dr. Patrick, the social factor which influence personal the buying process. Sir, in the same way, along with social factors, there also should be some personal factors which affect consumer behavior. Can you please throw light on those personal factors, sir?
Right. Now when it comes to the personal factors, we first look at the aspect of age. And the life cycle stage that we are at when we pass through different stages of our life there. I wish the students go through reading something which Sigmund Freud had said about the 5 stages of development, or Erikson has said about 8 stages of development that he passed through. And what we go about noticing is, as bachelors and spinsters, the things that we buy when you're newly married, when you're married with infants, and when you're married with grown-up children, or children take up professional studies, or there is some stage or some point of time where the children have left the home and we call it the empty nest. And when one of them is dead, we call it to be a widow or a widower. At every stage we see there is a transformation in the need set and the patterns that are there, and what they buy and how they go about with buying. There is a difference that we find there. And the next thing that we go about with looking at is to do with occupation. Now there are certain occupations which go about with saying that you got to lead a simple life, but there are some occupations wherein you're being compelled to go about with showcasing your wealth and prosperity and other things there. So occupation also determines the kind of things that we buy and display there. And apart from it, the economic circumstances. There's always this rift or the conflict between how much you save and how much you spend, the kind of market conditions that exist there. And that is something which has a bearing on the decision making part of it there. And there is another very important aspect when it comes to the personal reasons which have a bearing on the consumer behavior. We call it the lifestyle. It is a pattern of life, how one goes about leading in the world. And it's very easy to understand this lifestyle concept with an acronym called AIO, where A stands for activities, I stands for interest, and O stands for opinions. So no two individuals are similar when it comes with their activities, their interests and opinions there. So their factors which influence them, or what influences them personally in making a choice of buying and not buying, is surely going to be different from the others around there.
So, those are the personal factors. Personal factors include the stage in which you are there, the consumer is there, that determines what kinds of products he will purchase. His occupation also will determine the kind of product that he will purchase, and the lifestyle of the individual also will have a bearing on the product purchase. So, those are the personal factors explained by Dr. Patrick. Now, Professor Achalapati, please tell us the psychological factors.
Yeah, psychological factors or intrapersonal factors are the real factors which influence the personal decision making. See, human mind is influenced by motivation, perception, learning, beliefs and attitudes. These 5 are very important aspects which influence. What is motivation? Motivation is a force which makes a man to act. See, unless a person is hungry, he will not be able to perceive the aroma in a right sense.
Yes.
When he goes through a sweet shop or when he goes through a hotel, the aroma that comes from the hotel will attract him and automatically he will go there and consume something only when he is hungry.
Yes.
Basically, the drive must be there inside. It is a force. So, what is the force that makes you? In fact, we call them as the need is a felt deprivation. The feeling of deprivation should be important, and it is a relative concept. Let us say, as you were mentioning rightly, that a students, if today nobody is wearing the watch. Only earlier days people were wearing the wrist watches. People are only looking to the phone whenever they want time. So, nobody wears the watches. So, watch may not be a need for a student today.
Yeah.
So, even though watch was need elsewhere, watch may not be a need. It is a relative concept and feeling of deprivation. So, motivation is a force. Once you are motivated, you feel like what do you say, the perception, you would like to perceive. If I want to buy a car, then I will see the ads in the on cars, or I will they will attract me. The queue of the whatever that is there will get responded and we go for it. Similarly, we perceive, let us say, if you look to this figure, you find one person seeing that side, he will find that only 3 sticks are there. The other side, the person who is seeing, you will find no, there are 4 sticks. So, from both the sides, the figure is perceived differently. So, people perceive what they want to perceive, what is their background, what do they want to perceive. So, that makes the difference. Once the perception is there, once you perceive, then comes learning. What do you mean by learning? When you say learning, normally people think that learning is studying. No. Learning is nothing but change in the behavior. What were you earlier? When you join in a first year of MBA, what are you? When you complete your MBA, what are you? If there is change in you, you have learnt something from the college. If there is no change in you, you have not learnt anything. So, learning is change in the behavior. When we do not know about the 5G or 3G or 4G, then your consumption of a phone is different. Otherwise, once you know about it, your purchase of product is different.
Yes.
So, purchasing of a product is a decision which will be taken as a consequence of change in the behavior, as Pavlovian puts it. So, that learning models, which we will speak later, that is change in the behavior, and then it will result in it will create a belief or a attitude. What is belief? A descriptive thought held by a particular person, that is belief. Let us say we all believed that the land is flat, but somebody disproved it and said that land is a sphere. So, once it is proved, our belief is changed. So, belief can be changed once the descriptive thought is changed. Attitude is deeper to it.
Yeah.
Attitude speaks about the orientation. Let us say the Americans consume more number of cars, hence this is the fact. But when it comes to the attitude, one person would say that I love Americans because they consume more number of cars, I sell cars, my sales are high, so I love Americans. This is an attitude. Whereas another person may say I hate Americans because they consume lot of cars, hence they create pollution, and it is anti-pollution person will perceive him as negative. So, the attitude is the orientation or the approach through which the consumer comes forward. Hence, these 5 are the basic factors which determine the consumer behavior. All your advertisements are based on that.
Yeah.
Any ad that you make as a marketer, you need to know these factors, and then only you can come forward with different models, which we will discuss in the subsequent part of it.
Okay, I'll just add one thing to what sir has just said there.
Yes, sir.
Now, he has very nicely put these aspects of when you talk about the psychological elements there. Now, this is something what students tend to learn even in organizational behavior, where sir has very nicely said about the disposition, which is to do with the word attitude. Now, what happens is when we talk about perception there, here what we see is we have the 5 sense organs with which we receive the stimuli. We go about with processing in our mind and we attach meaning to it.
Yes.
So, when we attach meaning, the outcome is we develop what is called as values, beliefs and attitudes. And this in the end goes about with culminating with what is behavior. And that is what is useful in studying about the aspects of consumer behavior. So, it's something, the way you go about with looking at things, and it is something to do with factors which are there internal to you, where you see differently what the other person doesn't go about with seeing that. So, that is something which is very crucial, which influences the very mindset of a person or the personality and other things when it gets with the word called perception.
So, that was these were the determinants of consumer behavior. We have seen the cultural factors, we have seen the social factors, we have seen the personal factors and also the psychological factors. So, at this point in time, I would like to remind our students that this is an interactive session. Please do call us and take the advantage of the experts present on this platform and call them, ask your queries and get your doubts cleared. So, I would like to repeat the numbers once again: 040 2703 1431, 2703 1432 and 2703 1433. Please do call us and take advantage of the experts who are present here. So, Dr. Patrick, we have up till now seen all the factors that determine the consumer behavior. Now, please tell us the stages in the buying process.
Okay. Now, after getting to understand what are the factors or the determinants of consumer behavior, now it's put in a very simplistic way there, not necessary that everybody goes through these 5 stages. The first one is to do with need recognition or problem identification. The second stage is to do with the information search. The third is evaluation of information. Third is the purchase decision, and fifth is to do with the post-purchase behavior. Now, it's very simplistic to understand the structure. Let me take an example.
Yes.
Now, in case that, let's say the way he is quoted about watch, or sir is about saying about how it's been a need felt when it comes for looking at mobile phones and other things. Let's say there is a girl by name Noor or Nancy or Neha or something of that kind there, and this girl has to go about with making a choice of the kind of laptop that she has to go about with buying. Now, how does she go through these 5 stages? Let us say that she has understood that she's been accustomed to a desktop that she's been using in a computer lab in a college or at home, but she's come out of the college and she wants to go about with making some corporate presentations, training programs. She can't carry the desktop everywhere around. So, to go about with making a choice about what is a good laptop around, she would probably browse the internet, check through the different companies, the offers that they make, and she would go about with knowing about the prices, the features, the memory, the capacity of a laptop and all these things. So, first is the need recognition that she wants a laptop. The second is where she goes about with searching for the information as to what would be the right kind of a laptop there. And then she goes about with trying to evaluate. Probably there are a lot of brands that are there in the market, right from Toshiba to Lenovo to Acer to IBM and various other brands of laptops that are available. And probably she would go about with trying to figure out at the one which really meets her aspirations, her expectations. And then she would figure out as to whether you would buy it online or you would buy it offline. And what are the terms and conditions to do with the warranty, guarantee and other things. And she would end up making a decision to buy, and she buys it. Now, after she buys, probably there is this post-purchase behavior where you have, wherein others would go about with sowing seeds of doubt in the mind, saying that probably the brand that you bought is not appropriate, you should have brought another brand. Or others may go about with saying that you have taken a very right decision there. So there would be two things that can happen once you have taken the decision to buy. One is you go about with getting a sense of satisfaction, wherein you feel that you have done the right thing there and the product really matches your expectation level. There are times that you fall short of your expectations and you feel a sense of regret, or you feel remorseful, or you feel sorry for the kind of decision, and you say that you shouldn't have taken the decision of buying that good or the service there. And that is what is called as the cognitive dissonance, where we say it is the post-purchase dissatisfaction that you have. Again, to repeat there, I tried telling out with this example here. So you say the first stage is to do with the need recognition. The second stage is to do with the search for information, evaluation of the information, purchase decision, and the post-purchase behavior. So these are the stages which constitute what is called the process of the stages in buying behavior.
Okay, sir, that was a very beautiful explanation with regard to the stages in the buying behavior. First, there is a need felt for the product to be purchased, and after the need is felt, the consumer will go about looking at the various alternatives available and the various ways in which he can get the information with regard to the purchase. And then after the purchase, the post purchase behavior also is very important, because that is called cognitive dissonance if it is dissatisfaction. And if he is completely satisfied with the product, probably he will go about spreading the word of mouth publicity saying that the product is really good. So these are the different stages. Professor Ashlapati, Dr. Patrick was talking about different stages in this buying process. Now I see that in each of this stage there are certain people involved. So what roles do people play in this buying behavior process, sir?
Yeah, this is quite common in the families as well as in the industrial buyers also, that you have 5 roles to play. There will always be an initiator, there is an influencer, decider, buyer and user. Sometimes you have gatekeeper also. When you say that the initiator, one who initiate the decision making. See, it so happens that initiator may be anyone from in the family. Maybe wife may come forward and say that why don't we buy a TV, and the initiation has come mostly because she observed that the girl of 3 years or 4 years old doesn't stay in the house. She goes quite commonly to the neighbor's house. Why she is going to the neighbor's house? She is always questioning, because you found that she is spending more time in seeing the TV in the neighbor's house, because neighbors are having TV, we don't have it. So initiation comes from them. Influencer, once your friends will start saying that, hey, you don't have a TV, everyone is having TV, why not you to have TV? So the words of the friends and peer group will result in the influencing everyone. Then the person decides that shall we buy the TV. The person, head of the family, may decide to have the TV. If you want to have the TV, the buyer need not be the head of the family. It could be elder son, or it could be a brother of this one. Somebody will say that if you, I don't know whether you are buying the TV or not. If you are buying the TV, don't buy lousy TV, you buy XTV, buy TV brands, he will say. So it is the person, elder person goes out and buys the TV. And at last when it comes user, everyone will be using. So gatekeeper is one who cautions you, or who tells you not to buy X or not to buy Y. He gives his expert opinion. So that could be a gatekeeper. So all these people play a significant role, especially when it comes to the marketer. Marketer has to look that the advertisements have to be targeted to the opinion leaders, or to the influencers, or to the buyers, deciders. A simple example I will give you, that the Axis Bank, recently I have seen that advertisement very interestingly. Axis Bank gatekeeper, watchman, tries to close down the bank. Just time is over, evening 6 o'clock, he was about to put the shutters down. Before he puts the shutters down, he finds one pregnant lady walking inside. By looking to that, she is a pregnant lady, she is a customer coming all the way, walking difficultly, walking inside. he, instead of closing, he starts opening the shutters. Then she says that yes, bank is open, she says, and she smiles, and the manager appreciates the decision of the watchman in opening the shutters in front of a coming customer. This is a kind of what do you say, creates an advertisement which gives a satisfaction, influences a lot, increases the expectations of the customers about Axis Bank. Suppose the Axis Bank internal staff do not respond properly to a customer, then his post purchase dissatisfaction will be highest. Yes. Because they have raised the expectations of the customer to be high, and if they are not customer friendly, it is quite likely that the Axis Bank advertisement may work negatively also. So, that has to be very sensitive. You have raised the expectations of the customers high by showing such advertisements. Yeah. So, advertisements influence a lot in taking such a decisions. I was very happy, even I was ready to take a account in Axis Bank. When I go and if I get my interaction with the customers, with the clerk bad, then I would repent. Yeah. It would repent. So, that is the roles played by the people at different stages. Mm.
So, beautiful explanation of the roles played by people in the buying decision process. There is an initiator, a person who initiates the process of buying, maybe a child in the family will coax the head of the family to make a purchase, and then there would be initiator, there would be an influencer, then there would be a decider, and so these are the roles played by people in the process of buying. And as sir was rightly pointing out, the advertiser has to target the particular role played by the person if he wants to translate this role into a purchase decision in favor of his product. So, Dr. Patrick, now we have talked about the roles played by people, we have also talked about the buying decision process. Now, sir, please tell us the various types of buying behavior.
Okay. Now, broadly what we do is, for the sake of understanding, we divide the types of buying behavior into 4 kinds there. It is divided into a quadrant based on 2 aspects. One is to do with the differences that exist between the brands and the level of involvement with the customer shows in making the decision of buying and not buying. So, we say there is something called as high involvement and low involvement. The differences between the brands to be high and differences between the brands to be low. So, when the differences between the brand is very high and the level of involvement one shows in the buying process is very high, we call it the complex buying behavior. Okay. Now, I know it would be apt for me to use this word, which is called as somebody being stinking rich. It would be a bad thing here. But the thing is, normally people don't buy cars every day. People don't go for vacations abroad every day. Or people don't go about getting married every day. Yeah. Or you don't go about changing jobs every day. Now, this is something wherein you get yourself deeply involved in the process of decision making, and that is called as a complex buying behavior. Now, to another extreme, when you talk about low involvement and low differences between the brands there, it is like a routine decision that we make, and it is a kind of a habit. I wish the students would read a book called The Power of Habit there. Now, here what happens is, I've seen cases wherein when you walk in front of a pan dabba or a pan wala, I mean, if he's familiar with you, he knows the brand of cigarette that you smoke. Sometimes to me it is a tongue twister when I have to tell the kind of pan that he goes about rolling. But the thing is, if he's familiar, even before you ask, he would give it to you. Yeah. Now, I don't go about with searching and doing a lot of research, where do I buy my staple food, eggs or rice and other things. So, that's something which comes as an habit. And there's another thing that is there where I said about cognitive dissonance. After you buy, probably there are many people who would like to give a lot of free advices, and they would like to sow the seeds of doubt, saying that, you know, the decision that you have taken is bad and other things there. So, what we tend to do is, we take decisions which is to do with dissonance reduction. Like, we don't want post-purchase dissonance to happen. So, we do little bit of research. Maybe our involvement may not be that high, but there would be differences between brands there. Now, the other one that is there, the fourth one, is to do with variety seeking. Yeah. Now, here what happens is, let's say that we have gone to a restaurant X for a dinner, and in the family probably the members say, like, you know, the food was good, but then let's go to another restaurant. So, it becomes restaurant Y. Yeah. And the third time, it's like you want to go about it giving a good treat or a kind of treat to your palate there, and you would like to visit a restaurant Z or the Z the third time. And here what we see is, the food could be similar, but, you know, there could be a difference in the ambience, the way they go about it serving you and other things there. So what we go about it looking for is variety seeking there.
Yeah.
So to summarize, there are 4 different types of buying behaviors there. So we talk about complex buying behavior, habitual or routine, then it is to do with the dissonance reduction and variety seeking. So in all, it's to do with 2 prime factors which go about with working it out. One is to do with your level of involvement and the difference that are there between the brands.
Yeah. So that was the various types of buying behavior, where there are certain products which require a lot of thinking before you actually buy the product, and there are certain products which routinely do not require any great decision making. You just have to just walk in and then purchase the product. So there are different kinds of buying behavior. Now is the time, Professor Achalapati Garu, to know about the models of consumer behavior. So please tell us the models of consumer behavior.
Models, there are many, like economic model, sociological model, psychological model, psychoanalytical model, gestalt model, cognitive dissonance model. These models are very important based upon the determinant which they have taken up, like Marshall. Marshall says that the man is rational.
Yeah, right.
So man always tries to seek maximum satisfaction with a minimum investment. So what I pay as a price, or what I lose, what I sacrifice should be a minimum, and what I get should be maximum. So maximum out of minimum is the model which the Marshall brings out. We call it as Marshallian model or economic model. So all your economic theories, pricing theories are all based upon the economic model. Similarly, you find that there is a sociological model. Then you have the psychological model. Like that, you have different models that you have.
Okay.
So models can be explained in detail.
Yeah. So Dr. Patrick, can you please explain the economic man model in detail, please?
Yeah, as sir has rightly gone about with saying, it was given by Marshall, and what we tend to notice is individual tries to go about with getting maximum with the minimal inputs that he goes about with giving. That's to do with optimization, as we call it there. You want to maximize your output with your minimum inputs, and there is this word that we use which is called as rationality.
Yeah.
You're trying to go about with finding a link between cause and effect. If I spend, what is the return I get, and if I want this return, how much do I spend there? So this is something to do with the economic model there. And there are a lot of other models. Probably I'd get to the other one, which is to do with the Maslowian need hierarchy, as it said there. I mean, this is to do with the Western model. In India, we talk about a need hierarchy which starts for Kama, Artha, Dharma and Moksha. And very much like that, where we say Kama is more to do with the word of avoiding or seeking pleasure, pain and pleasure principle. And Artha, when it is there, I seek meaning, I get a return for whatever efforts I put. Dharma is, when a parent is performing a task to the kid there, they don't do it with an act of selfishness. They believe it's their bound duty. And we are trying to get ready to get to the God closer, we call it the moksha stage. Very much like that, Abraham Maslow had gone about with giving a structure which is to do with the physiological needs, which is called as the basic needs. It's to do with your food, water, shelter, clothing, or biological needs, as we call it. The next level is to do with the safety level. I mean, we are happy with our need sets today. Now, why do people buy various insurance products? That is to go about with taking care and protect them for the rainy day, as we say. Now, if you're happy with your today and tomorrow and you believe you're sufficient with things there, probably you'll try to meet your love needs or your social needs, go about with getting into family and other things there. The next level is when people go about with buying branded things. Yeah. I can get a very simple enough watch. I can aspire for brand like Longines or Tissot or Omega and other things there. Or I would like to get flashy with my wealth and other things there. And that is where I'm talking about a need level which is called a self-esteem. I want others' eyes to be turned towards me there. So that is to do with the next level. And being perfect in what you are, where you're trying to draw out your true potential and you aspire for things there, where money is not the criteria, we call it as the self-actualization level. Okay. Probably you can quote a Sachin Tendulkar there, or Don Bradman, or maybe the famous singers that you come across there. They are not after money, but the position is what matters. You're a numero uno on the market and other things there. So this is one model that you have. And there's another model which is to do with what Sigmund Freud had given.
Yeah.
Now, if you ask any biology teacher, you would tell what are the 3 parts of a central nervous system, it would be to do with cerebrum, cerebellum and medulla oblongata. But he goes about saying there is something called as a conscious state. Okay,
Sir,
I think I'm
in
encroaching into
response-
Sir's area.
No,
now.
that's not the thing, sir.
problem.
Actually, in response to a request, there is a phone call ready.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello, my name is Sujata from Mehdipatnam.
Okay.
I
Tell
have
me.
a question.
Yes, madam.
Can I ask?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, madam. Please.
My question is, to any entrepreneur or organization, the profits which they incur is mostly based on the consumer determines or entrepreneur determines. How do you classify?
Okay, madam. We will ask Professor Achalapati. Now, the caller here wants to find out that profit is the primary motive of any organization. So, if the organization wants to earn more and more profits, the determinants of consumer behavior are important, or is it the entrepreneur angle which is more important?
Yeah, as if I just correct it, it is profit is not the motive of the organization. What Peter Drucker says is creating a customer is the purpose of the business and profit is the result. When you creating a customer is the fundamental purpose of the business. So, once you say creating a customer, it is the customer whose needs are to be understood. One who understands, one who loves the product and makes the profit will be losing like a Kodak, or he will be losing like any those who love the product. Whereas, if you love the customer, you will change your marketing strategy, your product strategy, your price strategy, your promotion strategy, and every entire marketing mix has to be molded according to the changing needs of the customers. Hence, the customers behavior or customers needs is a main thing required to satisfy the customer, thereby your result will be profit.
Correct.
A company which does not earn profits is inefficient company. A company which makes the profit does not signify that it is a good company, because a bad company also can make profits, but definitely a loss making unit is a inefficient unit. So, what you need to understand here is customers has to be targeted, customer has to be interest has to be are the basic determinants in creating a customer well, thereby getting good profits, as she asked.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
I'll
you,
add little to
Sujata.
what Sir has said there.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Now, he has rightly quoted Drucker, where he says, when you ask what a business is, the lady is trying to look at from an entrepreneurial angle there. Now, he says business is all about 3 things. He says it's to do with creating a customer, satisfying a customer, and retaining a customer. So, the business has to basically stem from understanding the customer's need, want, desire, and demand. So, if you create a product which is not needed by the market or by the customer, it's quite obvious that you're going to go about with making losses there.
Yeah.
And these days, it's very pertinent that we got to talk about customer satisfaction and other things there. And if you meet or match the expectations, we call it satisfaction. If you fall below, we call it dissatisfaction. But today's market principles runs on exceeding the expectations of the customers, which we call it as the delight principle there. So, it's very right where Sir has said that you'll have to go about with matching the expectations of the customer. It shouldn't be entrepreneurial driven. Yes, you are there in the market to meet the need. If you're not there to go about with meeting the need there, as he has quoted about Kodak and other things there, you would be like any other Jurassic Park animal.
Yeah. So, here also note the difference between selling and marketing. In the case of selling, whatever product is produced is pushed into the hands of the customer. Whether the customer needs it or not is not the botheration of the marketer. The customers, they are pushed the product into their hands. But when it comes to marketing, first you create a need for the product, and the need is felt in the minds of the customers, and then create a product, produce a product that matches that need which is felt in the mind of the customers. The customers will pull the product from the shelf. This is marketing. So, there is a difference between selling and marketing. So, very good question there by the caller. So, I hope the question has been answered. So, I would like to ask Dr. Patrick, you were talking about the models of consumer behavior, and maybe you were talking about the psychological model, sir. Yeah, please continue with that.
I did with the aspect of psychological. Probably it was I was trying to speak on the psychoanalytical and other things there, and there are a lot of other models that you have. One given by Jagdish Sheth, where he puts it more into an input-output process, a simple basic structure of a computer kind of a thing there, where a lot of variables that are there, exogenous, endogenous, which influences the behavior of a customer. Then there is Collat-Blackwell model, there is Millard model that are there. There are a lot of models. Probably I'll ask Achalpati sir to go about it, contributing or summing up things there.
Yeah, continuing about the Freud, Sigmund Freud played a significant role in consumer behavior. You know, the Sigmund Freud speaks about the instincts, ego and superego.
Yes.
When it comes to id, it is there is no difference between human behavior and animal behavior.
Yeah.
So, the basic urges have come from there, and superego are the expectations of the society. The expectations of the society comes from the culture, comes from the sociological and whatever we have discussed earlier. Yeah. So, the superego is a representative of the society, expectations of that,
yes.
and thereby they many times the what animalistic desire comes, what the society expectations come, they come into the contradiction. When they come into the contradiction, they have to be balanced by the person, that is called ego.
So, may I interrupt you for a second, sir? We have a phone call.
Yeah.
Hello? Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Please
sir.
ask.
Please tell me, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon to you, sir, to all of you.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
I am VN Reddy from Bollaram.
Yes, sir.
I had a question on the subject, like I want to ask any of these panelists who are talking about.
Yes, sir.
What is the main factors that influence the purchase of an industrial product rather than of the other products?
Yes, sir.
If you are dealing in industrial products.
Yes, sir. So,
When it comes to the industry, the basically, you know, the we need to look to the roles played by the purchasers. As we have discussed earlier, the initiator, influencer, decider, buyer, those roles are more significant in industrial buying, because the product will be needed by a particular department. Let us say a lab requires a particular chemical. So, initiation comes from the lab, and the way to influencer comes, the how much do you require, how much important it is, what is the significance of that particular project and that particular lab and that particular usefulness as such is to be influenced by the importance of the project which they have taken up. Then decider is the one who decides whether how much we should pay and what are the suppliers, at what rate they are doing it, whether they are within the list of suppliers already existing or not. If not, we need to make information search and other process, etc. Whether we can go, how much time do we have, these things will be decided. Then we have a buyer stage, different buyers in the sense the persons who actual taking go to the market and buy the products. So, a target market group, the person who markets a industrial product has to think whom to approach at what stage.
Yes, sir.
And then go for it.
Yeah,
One last thing, it is to do with, when you look at industry part, it is derived demand.
Yes.
So what happens is, it is basically based on the consumer's demand. So there is demand for goods, there is demand for the raw material and other things there. If now as we see recession there is a fall in demand. So naturally these people will not have demand for the raw materials and other things there.
So, dear students, this was the discussion on the topic determinants of consumer behavior. I thank Professor K.V. Achalpati Garu for coming over here, and also I thank Dr. A. Patrick for taking time off his busy schedule to be with us on this program. And I hope this program was useful to you. Thank you.